Good morning, guys. Today we're going to learn about solving systems of equation word problems. So we can use any format we've learned. So you could use graphing, substitution, elimination, whatever floats your boat. But they're going to be given to you in the form of a word problem. The first thing we always want to do with these is to find and label our two variables and then write and solve the equations. So Tammy, so they're not necessarily going to have X and Y here, just pointing that out. So Tammy works two jobs. As a clerk, she earns $7 an hour. As a receptionist, she makes $9 an hour. 1 week, she worked 24 hours and earned $200. How many hours did she work at each job that week? Okay. So I would say that our two variables are her two different jobs. So we have the variable C for when she's a clerk, and we have the variable R for when she's a receptionist. So what equations could compare these two variables? Now, a hint here is we're going to have an hourly equation and a money equation. So starting with money, when she's a clerk, she makes $7 an hour. So I'm going to do 7 times C because $7 per her hours as a clerk. Okay. As a receptionist, she makes $9 an hour. So plus $9 as a receptionist. 1 week she works 24 hours and she earns 200. Okay. So if she works 24 hours, her C and her R together are 24. Those two, so this is her hours as a clerk. This is her hours as a receptionist. Okay. So if you add her 2 hours up for the week, it should total 24. However, if you add up her hours times the amount she makes, it should equal 200. Okay, so that's how we're getting two equations. This one, we're talking all about money, dollar signs. So it's $7 per hour for this, $9 per hour for this. She made 200. Here, she's got hours as a clerk, hours as a receptionist together. She got 24 hours. Okay. So these are our two equations. Now we want to solve them. Just looking at these, I would probably go with either elimination or substitution. I'm going to do substitution, so I'm just going to subtract C from both sides here. So I have R equals 24 minus C. So I've isolated R to be by itself. Okay, so now this I can substitute in for R in that equation. So I have 7C plus 9, and I'm going to plug in this 24 minus C equals 200. You could have also done this by elimination. You would have had to multiply this equation by 7 or 9. So if you like elimination better, you could have gone ahead and done that. Okay, now I got some big numbers here, so I'm pulling out my calculator. I need 9 times 24 is my first. That's 216, and then I have 9 times a negative C, so it's going to be negative 9C. Then I'm going to subtract 216 from both sides, and I'm going to combine these like terms. So 7C and minus 9C is going to give me negative 2C. And when I subtract 216, I get negative 16 over here. Lastly, I'll divide by negative 2, and I get that C is positive 8. I've now figured out what C is. Let me plug it in to one of my equations to find what R is. So I'll just look at the second equation. C plus R should equal 24. So I'm going to plug in my C is 8. And then I'm going to subtract 8 from both sides, and that makes R 16. So how many hours did she work at? Did she work at each job that week? So remember with word problems, we always want to answer it as a sentence. So she worked 16 hours as a receptionist and 8 hours as a clerk. And that's the answer to our word problem. Okay. These are some practice problems that you guys are going to work on. Okay. I want to go over one more word problem from here, because you guys are going to do quite a few practice problems. So I'm going to do some more word problems from here. So for practice today, you're going to do 1, 2, 1. I'm going to do these with you, and then you're going to do 3, 4, 5 on your own as well. So on your own, you're doing 1, 2, 1, 3, and then 4, 5 on the next page. Okay. So these two I will do with you. A test contains 35 questions worth a total of 100 points. There are 7-point questions and there are 2-point questions. So there's 2 types of questions. How many 2-point questions are there and how many 7-point questions are there? So they're giving you one equation. This equation is about points. I'm sorry, questions. Blah. Okay. So our 2-point questions are going to be called X and our 7-point questions are going to be called Y. And we need to tell them how many there are of each of them. So they gave us the equation that the 2-point and 7-point questions added together should equal 35 questions. Now we want to set up an equation talking about actual point values. So we have 2-point questions are X, so 2 times X. There's 2 points per every question. And then there's 7 points per every 7-point question. And together, those should combine to equal a total of 100 points. Now I have 2 equations, and this one I think I'll solve by elimination because they're both in standard form. So I have this as my system. And I left a little space here because I'm going to have to multiply this one by either 2 or 7 to be able to eliminate. I'm going to do it by 2 because that's a smaller number. So I have to distribute that 2. So 2 times X is 2X. 2 times Y is 2Y. And 2 times 35 is going to give me 70. Now I can eliminate here because I have 2 and 2. And they're the same sign, so I'm going to subtract down. So those will subtract to be 0. Then I have 2 minus 7. That gives me negative 5y. And 70 minus 100 gives me negative 30. And then I'm going to divide by negative 5 on both sides. And I get that y equals 6. Because I'm going to have a negative divided by a negative. So this is going to be a positive 6. Now I still need to plug that 6 into one of these original equations in order to find my X. So I found that there are 6 7-point questions. Let me plug in X plus Y should equal 35. So I'll plug in the Y is 6. And then I can subtract 6 from both sides. And X should be 29. So there are 29 2-point questions. And there are 6 7-point questions. And that should total my 100 points. So how many 2-point questions are there? There's 29. How many 7 points? 6. Okay, let's do one more problem. The math club and science club bought supplies for a retirement home. The math club bought 6 cases of juice and 1 case of bottled water for 135. So you can see here they put 6J. So I'm assuming J is going to be juice. And B is bottled water. So the first equation they gave you is about money. Okay, they bought 6 juices plus 1 bottle of water equaled $135. The science club bought 4 cases of juice, so I'm going to put 4J plus 2 cases of bottled water, so 2B, and that cost them $110. So these are actually a little easier to write about because the equations are about the same thing because we just have two different scenarios. So now we want to solve these. Once again, they're both in standard form. So I would probably use elimination here. I would probably alter the top one. The reason I would alter the top one is because I can multiply by 2, and then I'll be able to eliminate these b's, right? So 4 can't go into 6 evenly. I'd have to multiply by a fraction. However, 1 can go into 2 if I just multiply by 2. So I'm going to multiply by 2 and distribute. So 2 times 6j is 12j, 2b, and then I have 135 times 2, which is going to give me 270. Now I have the same sign here, so I'm going to subtract down everywhere. Those will subtract to be 0. 12 minus 4 gives me 8j. And 270 minus 110 is going to give me 160. And then I'm going to divide by 8 on both sides. And I get j equals 20. So how much does a case of juice cost? It costs $20 for a case of juice. I still need to figure out how much it costs for water. So I'm going to plug it into one of these equations. So I'll choose the second one. 4j plus 2b equals 110. I'm going to plug in 20 here for j. So that gives me 80. I'm going to subtract 80 from both sides. I got 2b equals 30. And then I divide by 2, and b is 15. So it costs $15 for a case of bottled water, $20 for a case of juice. Okay, so you guys are doing 3, 4, and 5 on this, and you're also doing 1, 2, and 1 from the first page. All right, have a great day. Good luck. Reach out if you have any questions.